finished Chain of Iron yesterday, and oh, strap in because she's gonna be a rough one. I did consider getting all like dressed up and nice for this video. No, this book does not deserve it. I'm so mad at this book, so mad. I loved it. It was a great, well, it was not a great time, but it was a great time. And when I finished it, I was just on my bed, tears. I was looking around like a lost puppy, and I was just like, my only thoughts were, oh my god, I am so sad right now. I was so sad. This is going to be really interesting watching me recap this book, considering I stopped writing my notes in this book like 200 pages in. This is a 500 plus page book, because I was just reading this so quickly. 3 days. This took me 3 days. And that was like 200 pages a day. Okay. So I'm going to start with the back of the book, because even when I read the back of the book, I was losing my mind. Okay. Secrets consume even the truest love. Cordelia Carstairs seems to have everything she ever wanted. She's engaged to James Herondale, the boy she has loved since childhood. She has a new life in London with her best friend Lucy Herondale, and she bears the sword Cortana, a legendary hero's blade. But the truth is that James is in love with the mysterious Grace Blackthorn, while Cortana burns Cordelia's hand when she touches it. Don't even talk to me about that. Even worse, a serial murderer is targeting the Shadowhunters. Cordelia, James, and Lucy must follow their trail through the city streets. All the while, each is keeping a shocking secret, and James fears that he himself may be the killer they seek. No, I'm good. Okay, so my thoughts when I read that, I was like, okay, so James is not going to be the killer, because Cassie would not just put that on the back of the book and then have it be true. Like, that's just dumb writing. That's just, that's dumb. That's stupid. So I was like, he's not the killer. It's fine. Yep, that's all I want to say. Okay, so we started off the book, and I was already crying at the dedication. For Rick Riordan, who, Queen, King, Baby. Thanks for letting me use the noble name D'Angelo. Don't bring him up. But you know what's even funnier is that, like, she uses that name and acknowledges him, when in the first book I was like, guys, James low-key be shadow traveling Nico D'Angelo who? I knew. Anyway. Okay, so we got part 1, Little Games, and immediately I was like, I am not ready. I was not ready for this tragedy of a book. Okay, so it starts off, we have our normal chapters, and then we get the murderers inside the serial killer's head, and then Grace's past flashbacks. That's what we're flipping between in this book. So our little prologue thing is we're inside the murderer's head, and our first murder is committed. And I don't even remember who died. I don't remember the name. It's kind of unimportant. And at the end of that, he's like, soon he would be strong enough to take on his true enemies. As he turned to leave the alley, he whispered their names under his breath. James Herondale, Cordelia Carstairs. So immediately I'm like, it's Belial. Don't know how he's doing it. It's Belial. And he's talking about how he's all like weak and everything, and he needs to like kill all these people to get stronger and everything. So I'm like, clearly like possession, all that shit. Like, if you didn't know, what's wrong with you? He's the big bad. Like, I knew it was him and you couldn't figure out how. Okay, so first chapter, Grace and Lucy are meeting up to like try and help raise Jessie, because Jessie is Grace's sibling, and Lucy got a little crush on Jessie, which, yeah, more on that later. And it's Cordelia's bachelorette party. They go to Hell Row. Do they? Yes, they do. They go to the Hell Royale, and it's a great time. They drink, they have fun. That's it. And this is the night before her wedding. Okay, and then the next chapter, we are at James's bachelor party, and he's at the Devil Tavern where him and the Merry Thieves always hang out. So he's having their party. There's like a reverse mermaid. Yeah, I don't know. And when they go up to like their little room that they're always in, he slips back into, oh, all his friends are like trying to tell him like, you don't have to go through with this marriage, you know, blah blah blah. And he's like, if you wanted to stop me from marrying her, like, you probably should have tried earlier than the night before. Like, guys, really? And yeah, so he's upset, and do you want to know what happens? He goes back into the shadow realm, but I can't remember if he like actually sees anything, but they're all like, oh shit man, you just turned into a shadow again. And the reason this is so shocking is because after Belial was injured in Chain of Gold, like the realm, got like destroyed and it wasn't there anymore. So he's like, how the fuck did that happen? I didn't think that'd be happening again. I don't think any of us thought that'd be happening again. Okay, we get a little flashback to Grace. Like, we know Grace is adopted. She's kind of thinking about that. And she can't remember her life before she was adopted. So, like, I think she's got also, like, some kind of little spell on her similar to the bracelet. We're not even going to talk about that bracelet. We're calling it the Gracelet. I can't. Yeah. So, it's kind of got, like, that vibe where, like, she can't really remember anything. And, we know she's trained from the Midnight Air, but it's like, you're reading it and you're like, I really don't think Tatiana trained her. She didn't. It was Jesse. He would train in secret because he so badly wanted to be a shadow hunter, but like didn't have any marks or anything. And Grace is like, ooh, can you train me? So they train together. It's cute. It's a nice little brother sister moment. It's great. Okay, chapter 3. Elias Carstairs is back. Okay, so Cordelia, they're all like getting ready for the wedding and stuff. And so Elias is back and Cordelia's like, hey, where were you? Well, it's more Alistair. It's like, dude, like, where the fuck were you? We know you got released a week ago. What were you doing? And their mother's really happy. She is very pregnant in this book, like very pregnant. And she was all stressed that he wasn't home. And he's like, I was getting Cordelia a wedding gift. And they're like, sure. And he brings out the gift. And it's like this, I don't remember the word for it. Could not pronounce it anyway. It's a cover for Cordelia. It is a cover for Cortana. To like, when it's on her back. Yeah. It's a cover for Cortana when it's like strapped onto her back and everything, and apparently it's got some nice like protections. James can't get the bracelet off, so he's like looking at the bracelet and he's like, yes, I love Grace and everything, but it'd be unfair to wear this bracelet, which is a symbol of my love for Grace, whilst I'm married to Cordelia. Like, I should take it off. But every time he tries to take it off, he like forgets what he's doing, or like he can't find something to get it off, or like somebody comes and gets him, and then he's down and he's like, oh, I was trying to get the bracelet off. Oh well, I'll have to do that later. I'm sure Cordelia will understand. Get the bracelet off him. I can't. The rage. So Grace is there at the wedding and she's like, James, I need to talk to you. Only 10 minutes. That's all I need. And Matthew is like, absolutely not. And she's like, meet me in 10 minutes. So she's, I think, in the drawing room and stuff. And a servant comes in, but Tatiana has somehow possessed her. Well, it's through Belial's help, but like still. She's like, pretty much says, you're gonna take the bracelet off him. And she's like, well, yeah, he's getting married to Cordelia. Like, I want to help him. He should have the bracelet off. And she's like, no, you can't do that. Blah, 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 blah. And I have a whole fight. So, like, she doesn't take the bracelet off. But it's like, girl, if you really wanted to take the bracelet off when you were talking to him, you could have just gone, yeah, I'll take that back now, you're getting married to someone else. Did she do that? No. No, she did not. Oh, and when she's in the drawing room, Christopher goes to get her. I'm not like that against the Grace and Christopher thing that is happening but not happening at all. Because like the family tree says Christopher Lightwood and Grace Cartwright. Who is Grace Cartwright? It's Grace Blackthorne. That was her name beforehand. And I'm not mad at it, but like, I fucking despise this bitch. I hate Grace. Like, when she's alone, I'm like, maybe she's not that bad. Anytime James and Cordelia had a moment, it was either Grace fucking ruins it, or it was the Gracelet, which is Grace ruining it. Oh, I can't. So many times. So many times. Yeah. Normally Grace heartily disliked being steered, but Christopher did it kindly, not a domineering sort of way. I'm just gonna read the quote. She's talking about like James's love for her and like the bracelet and stuff. She thought of it as chains, iron chains that bound him to her. Yeah, and when when Grace and Lucy like talk about the necromancy and bringing Jesse back, they're like trying to do it with like without like straight up doing necromancy, because somebody else always has to like, someone has to die to bring someone back, balance and everything. And she's like, oh, maybe we should talk to Malcolm Fade. I think not. I think we should not talk to him. I think we should leave him alone. Oh, my Dark Artifices is behind this book, but it's Lady Midnight and Lord of Shadows. If you've read it, you know Malcolm Fade and it's not history currently, it's his future with necromancy. We know his past with necromancy. I think he should stay very, very, very far away. More on him and guess who? Annabelle Blackthorne later. Oh, I am so mad. I'm so mad. Chapter 4. It's their wedding. I was reading this and I'm like, guys, we're only 76 pages in. I was reading this and I was like, nah, no way their wedding is going to go smoothly. Like, something's going to have to happen. Because I wanted the wedding to happen so badly. Because I want them to be together so bad. But, like, also, because of the circumstances of their engagement and why they're getting married, I'm like, no, can we not? Maybe I don't want it to happen. But I do. I really do. Okay. The doors opened, thrown wide this time. The candles flared up. The guests turned to stare. A soft exhale went around the room. The bride was here. Matthew moved closer to James, their shoulders touching. James knew Matthew was staring too. They were all staring, and yet he felt as if he was alone in the room, the only one watching as Cordelia entered, Lucy at her side. Daisy. She seemed to blaze like a torch. James had always known she was beautiful. Had he always known? Had there been a moment he had realized it? But still, the sight of her hit him like a blow. She was all fire, all heat and light. From the gold silk roses woven into her dark red hair to the ribbons and beads on her golden dress. Oh my god, bitch is so in love with her and he doesn't even know. That's what hurts more about this relationship than with Will and Tessa. Because Will knew he was in love with her, but was like trying to make her not fall in love with him because he thought she would die. So he's like, I love you, but no. Get away. You can't love me. But Cordelia is in love with James, and James is in love with Cordelia, but James thinks he's in love with Grace because of the Gracelet. And they're literally getting married! They're getting married, and they're in love with each other, and they don't even know. And guess what? At the end of this book, they still don't know. This book ends and no couple is happy together. No one is happy. No one is together. Every ship is in the drain. It is down in the sinkhole. They are all sinking. Some were sailing. They've been brought back to the dock. None of them are still at the docks. They are down in the ocean. no one is happy and together. Will and Tessa are, but like all the adults, they are great. They are doing fine. They are happy together, but I'm sorry, I've had your story. I don't care. I need them happy and together. Oh, violins are playing at their wedding. Who's playing the violin? Jem. Jem is playing the violin from outside because the whole Silent Brother thing, I can't watch the wedding, I don't know. So he's playing it outside. And this is Charlotte, the consul. 23 years ago, I married Will and Tessa Herondale in this very chapel. How proud and grateful I am to be here now to marry their son, James, to a woman whose family is also close to my heart, Cordelia Carstairs. Oh! Breaking my heart here. Breaking my heart. And they get... So, this is the first time we've seen a Shadowhunter wedding from the perspective of the people getting married. And this is the first time that we've seen two Shadowhunters marrying each other. Because at the end of the Mortal Instruments, it's Jocelyn and Luke getting married, who Jocelyn is a Shadowhunter, but Luke is a werewolf. And then at the end of the Dark Artifices, it's Alec and Magnus getting married. Alec is a Shadowhunter, but Magnus is a warlock. So like they can't exchange the runes. And we don't see anyone getting married at the end of the Infernal Devices. Yeah, because, what's her name? Charlotte Henry already married, and no one gets married at the end of that book. Like, we just see in the epilogue later that they're married. We're not talking about Clockwork Princess epilogue. Actually, never mind. Retract that statement. Yeah, so this is the first time we're seeing two Shadowhunters get married, and so they exchange vows, they get runes put on them, so I think they draw it like on their arms. And so they have one on their arms done in front of everyone at that ceremony, and then they do another one like over their hearts. That one is done in private. I, throughout this whole book, was like, did they put them on each other in private and like we just didn't see it? And then at the end of the book, she's like, we never even put our second marriage runes on. They're only like half married. In Chain of Thorns, I so badly need them to be like, I love you. Oh my god, I love you too. Have a big fat moment, and I need them to put the second runes on. You have to do it. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and they kiss, and in that moment she's like, oh fuck, did not think about how I'd have to kiss him at this ceremony. It's great. They enjoy it. I enjoyed it. And at the end she goes, no amount of preparing of this day could have readied her for the real thing. She was married. She was married and she was absolutely terrified. And I did not know what to do with myself in that moment. Because, whew. Oh, Anna comes up. Magnus is at the wedding. Yeah, Magnus is at the wedding. And she goes, you all know Magnus Bane, of course. It is my understanding, Cordelia said, that the question is never whether you know Magnus Bane. The question is always whether Magnus Bane knows you. And she's like, oh, I like that. Yeah, and they're asking, like, Magnus, oh, like, are you going to stay in London a bit longer? And he's like, perhaps. Yes, perhaps. Magnus is a nosy little bitch. I love it. I love that about him. And he's like, I need to know what's happening with you all. Seems very interesting. I don't know if he's going to help, like, knock some sense into James and Cordelia, but I think he's definitely going to knock some sense into Matthew. Like, that's originally why he decided to stay, when he was, like, watching James and Cordelia, and he's like, issues there. And he's looking at Matthew and he's like, issue here, kid is an alcoholic. Yeah, her father is drunk, causes a fuss, James and Alistair escort him out, and yeah. And at the end, she goes, James scanned the room, obviously searching for someone. He caught sight of Cordelia and then waved, and she realised with a startling jolt that he had been looking for her. Yes, he'd been looking for you. He's in love with you and he just married you. And she goes, let's go home, James. She said, take me home. Ooh! Ooh! So their house is beautiful and gorgeous. She loves it. He picked the house. He picked out like all the decorations and everything. He decorated the house for her. It is her house. He's so in love with her and he doesn't even know. And, she like looks at the bracelet and she's like, oh, she had no right to like ask him to take it off. You have every right, sweetheart. You are married to him. Take off the bracelet. His eyes lingered on her mouth for a moment. Yeah, of course. Okay, so she thinks they're gonna have the same bedroom, like share a bedroom together because they're married. And oh, I knew they would have separate bedrooms. I knew it. I was so upset to know that I was right. So they have their 2 bedrooms, they have a conjoined bathroom, so like they can go to each other's bedrooms and stuff. And so they do, and then she goes to undress and she's like, oh, there are 50 million buttons on this dress, I cannot get it off myself. And she couldn't call for Reza to come take the dress off because she's like, oh, then she'd know he's not doing it and like it's not a proper wedding night, and she'll like go back and talk to her parents and blah blah blah. So she goes into James's room and she's like, you gotta take this dress off me. And he's like, huh? She's like, yeah, you need to take it off. So he undoes all the 50 million buttons and it like falls down, and she's like, I'm only wearing my corset and this, and then she like pulls it back up, and then it like kind of falls down at the back, and like he can see like her hips and everything, and he's kind of like, yeah, you should go. And she's like, please go. I really am awfully sorry. And I'm just like, this isn't what I wanted. It's not what I wanted. Oh, their study, sacred place. They play chess, and they have an agreement that they're gonna play like a game pretty much every night. Whoever wins the game gets to ask the other a question, and they have to answer it. It's so cute and like domestic. Okay, second murder happens. About these murders, it's very much a Harry and Voldemort Order of the Phoenix vibe. So the murders are happening, and James in his dreams like sees the murders happening like as if he's murdering the person. He can feel the hate. He's like, this hate, like it's not a human hate. Like, I don't know what this is. It's Belial, that's what it is. Yeah, they've been married for like 2 weeks. It's lovely. It's everything. It's quite, okay. Yeah, so they've been married for like 2 weeks, and James comes into her room and he's like, I have a present for you. Okay. Daisy, he said, you look. He broke off, shaking his head, and fumbled something out of his pocket. It was a simple black velvet box. He held it out to her, and she took it, quite surprised. Our 2-week anniversary, he said, in answer to her quizzical expression. But I didn't get you anything. She took the box, the velvet nap soft against her fingers. I didn't know I was supposed to. You weren't, said James. Sometimes I have foibles. This is one of them, he grinned. Open it. Okay. She did, revealing... Okay, it's a necklace, and it's like a small round little globe. Apparently there's something like special about this necklace that James needed at the end. He needed to tell her something about the necklace. Mad miscommunication happens at the end of this book. He doesn't tell her about the necklace, and I'm like, James, I want to know about the necklace. Okay, he goes, we've talked so much of travel, James said. I wanted to give you the world. It's perfect. Here, let me put it on. Hold on. The clasp is small. I'll help you. Ah! I can't. Why did I not underline that part? I'm doing it right now. Yeah, so he gave her the necklace. They go to an engagement party. It's cute. It's fun. Matthew dances with Cordelia, and he's like, I can't dance with you too much. It's not very proper for me, a single woman, for me, a single man, to be dancing with a married woman. And then James comes up, and he's like, Mrs. Herondale, would you do the honour of dancing the first waltz with me? Cordelia looked at him in surprise. The husbands aren't supposed to. I mean, they don't dance with their wives. Well, this one does. Ah! They're dancing together. But, she abandons him at the party, as she should, pay back for the first ball. She even mentions that, because Charles has gone up to Alistair, and Alistair's pretty much like, Charles, please stay away from me. So she goes up to him and, oh, yeah, and she's like, you can leave. She's like, leave my brother alone, pretty much. It's very satisfying. Ariadne keeps asking Anna at every party they're at to like dance with her, and Anna's always like, girl, no. And she's like, what do you expect? Do you really expect us to dance in front of these people? Because like Anna is out and proud. Ariadne is not. And in Ariadne's head she's like, oh, I did wait until my parents left and everything and blah blah blah. They then they make out in like a closet or something, and Anna's like, if that's all you wanted, all you had to do was ask. And so that's not what she wants, and it's not what you want. Ariadne is very much in love with Anna. We know Anna is in love with her, but like won't accept it, and she like won't let herself like develop any more feelings for her. And I'm like, girl, just lean into it. She really wants to be with you now. She's like, please, I lost you the first time, I can't lose you again. And they end up at the end, like they break that off, because Ariadne is like, I would be okay with like if it was just me loving you and like you didn't love me back and stuff, but she's like, you won't even let yourself do it. So she's like, I can't do this anymore. And like she refused to like watch Anna like walk off, so she left. But if she just watched, she would see Anna take like 3 steps and then like have a big fucking meltdown on somebody's stairs. Like she is so upset that her and Ariadne are like, oh, no one is happy. Nobody is happy. We have so many relationships and they're all down in the shithole. Anna and Ariadne, not together. James and Cordelia are married, in love with each other, not really together. Matthew is in love with Cordelia, but like he doesn't really have a relationship. Cordelia now knows, sorry, I'm kind of jumping to the end for this one. Cordelia now knows that Matthew is in love with her. James now knows that Matthew is in love with her because Matthew wrote him a letter, and James is like, oh my god. He's like, I really feel for Matthew, but like I kind of want to throttle him. Yeah, you and me both, get the fuck away from her. But like, their friendship is cute. Who else? Lucy and Jesse are probably like are probably doing the best right now. They both know that they love each other. But Bitch is a ghost. But there are developments on that later. More on that later. And Thomas and Alistair, they are also not together. I honestly think Thomas and Alistair right now are gonna have the easiest relationship in Chain of Thorns. Like, it's gonna be hard, but compared to the others, it's gonna be easier because like they like each other, but Alistair is like, we can't be together. Your friends hate me, like hate me. It's not gonna be good. He's like, you like dangerous, kind of like chaotic things. He's like, I will not let me be that for you. It's too much. It is too much, this book. I can't do it. But literally, if Thomas just told his friends like, oh hey, I kind of like Alistair, like we're good, like they'd be like, oh, what are you doing? We hate him. They'd be like, okay. They would accept it. They'd have to. Cortana kind of burns Cordelia for the first time, and it's like, oh, new development, but we knew from the back of the book. Here, I think we find out about the first death. Okay, chapter 7, I wrote first death, but just by going back through this, I thought we were up to 2 by now. I think there are 6 murders altogether. Yeah. James is kind of just like looking at Cordelia and he's like, how do I live in this moment forever and not let it go? Would it be like that when Grace and him were married? No. James wondered. He had never felt comfortable around Grace as he did with Cordelia. Yeah, maybe that's because you're in love with Cordelia and not actually in love with Grace. Maybe that's the reason, James. And at the end of this scene, I literally just went, fuck this bracelet. Lucy and Jessie have a fight. Why did they have a fight? Jessie reads part of Lucy's story and he thinks she's like making fun of him, and she's like, I'm not, and stuff, and he's pretty much like, she's like, I know what I feel, and he's like, you cannot tell me that I don't feel that way, and he's like, you don't understand. When I'm with you, I imagine my heart is beating, though it has not beaten for several years. You give me so much, and I can give you nothing at all. I told myself you felt nothing for me any more than you would feel for a portrait or a photograph or someone who has lived and breathed. I told myself lies. Then this is my fault, all of it, and I must put an end to it. And she goes, what if I command you to, like, forget you'd ever read the book? And he's like, no, you cannot command me or any ghost unless I have asked you to. He's like, you can't do it. She's pretty much like, okay. So yeah, I don't think that, ooh, third death. Yeah, so I think with that, she can command them anything, but like it'll take a bit of a toll on her and the ghost if like they're not willing. But I think it's more of like a moral thing. He's like, please just don't command any ghost unless they ask you, unless they want it. He's like, don't force them into things. I think that's what it's about. Yeah, see, then I wrote second murder. I'm pretty sure we're up to 3 right now. I think I lost count. Okay, James told Cordelia about how he went back into the shadow realm. James dreams of the murders, which we've already talked about that. Okay, Matthew and Charlotte have a fight. It's a pretty big fight, and it's kind of about like he's drinking and stuff. She's like, I can't put you on patrol, like you're ill, and he's like, no, I'm fine. She's like, dude, you're always drunk, like, get your shit together. And Charlotte, sweetheart, I'm on your side. The gun. Christopher is like trying to make guns work because guns don't work on demons because weapons have to have runes to be able to kill the demons, but the runes like diffuse the gunpowder, so he's like experimenting with it, and he puts like protection spells on it to like try and protect the gunpowder. He's like, I did this, this, and this, and they're like, Christopher, those spells are to protect Shadowhunter babies from demon possession. Not sure that would work. So James can fire the gun, and they have a theory that maybe it's because of his demon blood, but then they try it with Lucy later and she can't fire it, so only James can use this gun. And he uses it like twice to kill a demon. It's very slay. No, it's great. It's a great time. James is like, oh, I always thought throwing knives were my weapons, but maybe this gun is my weapon, and he doesn't know how to feel about his weapon being a weapon only he can use because of his demon heritage. But we don't even know if that's why he can use it, because Lucy can't use it. I don't know. I don't know. Lucy and Jessie have a moment. It's beautiful. It is a beautiful moment. They danced. Okay. So she is walking home from a party, like they're talking and stuff, and he's like, it's almost a joke. A ghost falling in love with a living girl and pining away in a dusty attic while she lives her life. It would be just a tragedy for me. A ghost falling in love. She's like, it's never a oh my god. It's never a tragedy to lose somebody. I think Romeo and Juliet would disagree with you on that. And yeah, he's pretty much like having this whole thing that it's so tragic, like it'd be better if just he loved her, but he knows now that she loves him, like they love each other, but he's a ghost, and he's like, this can never be, it can't be good. And she notices that like he's shivering, and ghosts can't shiver, they can't feel the cold, so she's like, oh my god, maybe our little necromancy shit is working. And she's like, we have a future, I promise you, we do. And he's like, command me to dance with you. She's like, dance with me, Jessie Blackthorn. I command you. Oh, it's so good. So like they dance in front of the courtyard, and I cried at this scene because it's beautiful. James and Cordelia have dinner with the Carstairs. It's kind of a weird dinner. James really laid the charm on thick. It worked though. James gets headaches from the bracelet. It's kind of whenever he's thinking about like Cordelia too much. Like he just gets like this really sharp pain in his head, and it's pretty much the bracelet going, no, no, think of Grace, think of Grace. And I'm like, no, no, think of Cordelia. You love her. You do not love Grace. Oh, the bracelet. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. The whole entire book, I had to stop myself from Googling, when does this bracelet come off him? Oh, it is so satisfying when that bracelet is off. Nobody like cuts it off. The bracelet breaks. Oh. So James and Cordelia keep having moments, and after one moment, she's like, oh, I noticed that there's a crack in your bracelet. I was so happy that there was a crack in the bracelet because I was like, oh my god, it's coming off. It's coming off in this book. And like it breaks. It just breaks in half when they are having another moment. That's how the bracelet comes off. James's love for Cordelia was so big and grand and great that it broke the bracelet. The bracelet, which its magic comes from Belial. Like, it is strong magic, and he loves her so much that the bracelet broke. James, you did one thing right. You did one thing right, and that was just loving Cordelia. But do you want to know what you did wrong? You didn't tell her that you're in love with her. Hence the disaster that is the last chapter of this book. I can't, no. We have a great moment. Okay, so there was third murder. We know James dreams the murders, so he's having a nightmare, and like Cordelia comes, wakes him up. She's like on top of him because he's thrashing and kicking around and everything. And so she's on him, he's awake, and she goes, this is page 190. 190, we love it, we love it. You're so cold, she whispered, looping her arms around his neck. Her voice shook slightly. She settled more closely against him, her hand stroking the back of his neck. He was helpless to stop his hands. They smoothed up and down her back on either side of her spine. Her breasts were round and firm, pressed against his chest. He could tell she was wearing nothing under her chemise. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. He could feel the arches and hollows of her. Every touch seemed to unravel another strand of the thin thread of control binding his good sense. Blood pooled hot and low in his belly. The fabric of her nightgown bunched up in his hands, his fingers curved over the shape of her, brushing the silk of her bare thighs, sliding up. Something echoed through the house. It was the doorbell ringing. James cursed himself for having a doorbell put in at all. Oh my god. Who was it that came to their door? Oh, it was Thomas. Thomas came to the door and there was a situation. I don't remember what it is. I'm gonna read what it was. He ends up even going like, Matthew's not at home. He kind of left with the dog. Matthew moved out after his fight with Charlotte, which Matthew living alone while he's an alcoholic, not very great. That's not a very good idea. You're such a fucking idiot. When they're all in the room, this goes, he wanted to go over and put his head in Cordelia's lap. He's so in love with her. This whole video is just me screaming that James is in love with Cordelia. Because he is. He's been in love with her since he was a child. Cortana burns Cordelia again. Yeah, so James and Cordelia had their big moment, which was a nightmare. I just read that. Matthew moved out. They spoke to, I think her name is Philomena D'Angelo. She's an exchange shadow hunter. She's dead. She was the third murder. They go speak to her ghost. And, what is it that the ghost says? Okay, the ghost said this to Cordelia. Cordelia, you are a great heroine. Even in the realm of the dead, they speak of you. You are the bearer of the blade Cortana, which can slay anything. You have spilled the blood of a prince of hell. You could have saved me. No, she couldn't. She was not at the party that you were at. Okay, so yeah, so this bitch died because she was coming back from one of Anna's parties, and Anna and Lucy were there, and they were like, oh my god, we should not have let her leave alone. No, you shouldn't. You should not have let her leave alone. And we learn Grace has the power over men. Like, that's her little siren power. That's how she got Matthew to kiss her at the end of Chain of Gold, which we don't talk about that in this book. That doesn't get brought up once. Like, not from any character, I think. Yeah. So Belial is the one that gave her power over men, and like that somehow helps with this whole situation, but that power, get this, doesn't work on James. Like, James is the only person the power does not work on, hence why she had to get the bracelet. And I don't know why he specifically had to go and get the bracelet. I think he had to like be willing to put the bracelet on for it to work, in the same way he has to be willing to let Belial possess him, but he's not willing. So he got the bracelet for Grace, and she's like, my mother like can't know we've gotten the bracelet, like could you wear it for me? And he's like, sure, I can wear it for you. And he's been in love with Grace ever since that bracelet got put on. I just wanted to reach through this book and rip that fucking bracelet off his wrist. Who knew a bracelet could cause so much issues? James Herondale got gaslit by a fucking bracelet that literally engraved on it in Latin says, loyalty binds me. James is pissed about that when he knows. He is pissed. Okay, and now I'm at the point where I was no longer writing notes, so oh my god, strap in, we are going for a ride. Do I remember what happens? No. I just read it, and I don't know. Fuck me. James is so in love with Cordelia. He's like seeing her, and he's like, he had nearly gone to kiss her. Any other man coming home to his wife might do. And like, you should have, you idiot. He's like, he wanted her. He rubbed his right wrist where his wrist ached. He put his hand to his head. It was splitting. So he's thinking about how much he just wants to go and kiss her and how much he wants her. And his wrist is aching. His head hurts. Because of the bracelet. Gonna put the book on the ground, and I'm just gonna like go for this. Okay, so these are the people that died. Okay, so two that I can't remember the name of, kind of important. D'Angelo, the exchange student. Elias Carstairs, he is now dead, so Cordelia's dad. And when he was really okay, Elias goes and visits James, and he asks for £5,000, which now is about, I think, £600,000, like that's the equivalent. And he's pretty much like, fuck no, where do you think I'm getting the money from? Where do you think my parents and everybody else is gonna get this money? And so, and like, he leaves the house, and like, he's drunk and going around, so that's how he was an easy target for the murderer. He only tried to fight back at the end, and he saw the murderer's face, and he's like, you. So James is freaking the fuck out, because naturally he had a dream about this, and he's like, oh my god, he recognized the killer. Could it have been me? Because also when he wakes up from these dreams, his window is open and he's freezing, and he's like, why the fuck is my window open? And he's like, surely not. Surely I can't be the killer, like going out in bare feet. I'd get fucking hypothermia. I'm like, yes, James, you were not the killer. It was on the back of the book. You're not the killer. That's Okay, so Elias Carstairs is dead. Then Lillian Highsmith, she gets killed, and so Thomas has been like going around patrolling alone to like try and get the killer to like come to him and like kill him, but like he's gonna go stop the killer. So he hears a scream, he runs, it's Lillian Highsmith, and she's like, it was him. And he's like, who? And she's like, he was dead, he's been dead for a long time. His wife wept and wept. And I was like, Rupert, which is Rupert Blackthorne, Tatiana Blackthorne's husband. Which, so in a way, I kind of guessed that the killer was Jesse, because Jesse looks like Rupert, and that's why she thought it was Rupert. It was Jesse, but it wasn't actually Jesse. It was Belial possessing Jesse. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, like, you get the idea. Okay. And so because Thomas is there, covered in blood, he whips out a knife when he hears people. It's the people on patrol. And who was there? The Inquisitor. We have never had a good Inquisitor. Fuck that man. Fuck that man. He's like, boys, we have found the murderer. Are you dumb? The murderer is not Thomas Lightwood. Are you kidding me? He's sweet and he is kind, and that's all everybody ever talks about when they talk about Thomas. He is not the murderer. And he's there with the knife covered in her blood. He's like, oh fuck, this does not look that good for me. So he kind of just like goes with them, and he finds like a stele. He thinks it's a stele. Turns out like it's actually not. They start calling it like a pythos. It can also like transform into a box, but the box part of that never becomes relevant. We find out through Christopher kind of experimenting with it, and Grace has gone to where he is, which is the consul's house, and he's in there experimenting because it's Henry's lab, and she's like, are you not going to ask why I'm here? He's like, no. You're engaged to Charles. I figured you were allowed to be here. And she's like, cool. They're talking about science, and the whole time he's nice. He like gives Grace a tour and everything, and she's like, damn, I don't even need to use my powers on him. He's so willing to just help me. And Christopher is like, oh, she's so nice. Christopher's thinking about how she was so nice and it was weird, and like nobody ever really gets him. Like obviously Henry gets him, Thomas tries to, he does most of the time, his friends kind of doesn't, but he was just talking on and on and on about science, and she was interested, and he's like, this was so easy, I didn't even think to filter what I was saying. And they together discover that the stele can't draw ruins on each other, but if you draw over somebody else's ruin, it like absorbs into the stele, and you can draw it on another person. It is a copy and paste stele. What? Okay, and when Thomas is now taken to the sanctuary, because he's now like getting locked up for the night because he's the suspected murderer, who runs in? Alistair Carstairs. He runs in and he's like, Thomas is not the murderer, and they're like, literally, how the fuck would you know that? And he's like, I've been following him. And he's like, you're the one that's been following me? And they're like, Thomas, you knew someone was following you when there was a murderer and you just kept going? And he's kind of like, yeah, it was Alistair. Why was Alistair following him? Because he has a crush on Thomas. That is why. That is why. Okay, so he's like, yeah, I've been following him for days. Like, he heard a scream and he ran. He's like, he didn't kill her. Like, that's it. And the Inquisitor is like, oh, so you'd want to, of course, you would lie about this. Like, you'd want to protect your friends. And I think it's Christopher that's with him. It's like, no, they're not friends. He would not lie for him. He's like, oh, god damn. Okay, so Thomas and Alistair are locked up. They're going to be trialed by the Mortal Sword the next day. And he's pretty much like, James, I can't be tried by the Mortal Sword. We got a lot of secrets. What if I spill the beans about you? But James is like, he will trial by the Mortal Sword. So he's pretty much, that's him giving the go of like, if it comes out, like, it's okay. Clear your name. Oh, somebody is home. Fuck. Okay, so they are locked up in the sanctuary. The Mortal Sword is currently in Paris because like Charles kind of fucked something up with the vampires, and they need to like go fix that. Will and Tessa are with them. So the next day, Will and Tessa comes with the Mortal Sword. Thomas gets trialed by it, but during that night, Thomas and Alistair have a little conversation, and they make out the entire time. They stop for a sandwich break. That is very important. They stop for a sandwich break. Okay, and when Thomas is holding the soul sword, Will is asking the questions. He is like, did you murder Lillian Highsmith? No. Did you murder the others? No. Do you have any other secrets? And this is Charlotte. Will, that is way too vague. You can't just ask him that. He's like, question retracted. Yeah, Will, you're so idiot. You're so dumb. He was gonna spill the beans about your child. About your child. And then he goes, is Gideon aware that he owes me £20? Or 20 something? And he's like, yes. He's trying to pretend he doesn't remember. I knew it. Questioning over. And then the Inquisitor is like, no, questioning is not over. He's like, I think we're done. He's like, we haven't even begun. He's like, I asked all the important questions. I asked, did you murder the person you were suspected for murdering? He said no. Questioning done. But literally though, like quite literally, what else is there to ask? What else is there to ask? Okay, I think the next murder is Charles, but Charles doesn't actually die. Grace comes to James's house, kisses him. He's not very happy. When she leaves, she's like, I don't know who you were kissing, but it was not me. And I'm like, oh, I was so happy when she said that. Later, he tells Cordelia that he kissed Grace, and she's later like, She's like, I demand one thing. This is how you're gonna fix it? And he's like, sure, anything. She's like, pretend I have won a chess game. And she's like, kiss me. What? Kiss me. She's like, well, when we're not together, the next person I marry is gonna expect that, like, I know how to kiss and, like, do other things. And she's like, we don't have to do other things, but, like, you can kiss me. It is such a good scene. This is them making out. It is glorious. And I'm pretty sure that's the scene where after she's like, your bracelet is a little cracked. Yeah, at one point they go to the shadow market to try and find out information about this stele, which I already told you about that. They see magnets. I don't even want to talk about the Magnus part. Magnus is not Magnus. Ooh. Cortana. Okay, so Cortana is burning Cordelia, and she keeps thinking back to, like, two people that have mentioned Waylon the Smith to her. Waylon the Smith is the person that created Cortana, and she's like, maybe he's still alive. Maybe I can go see him. So her and Matthew, of course it's Matthew, love him, but, like, they drive down in a motor car to the place, and she sees Waylon the Smith, who, like, holds her blade. He fixes it in, like, 2 seconds, and he's pretty much like, oh, Cortana is burning you because you stabbed Belial, like, that is a prince of hell. Did you really think there would be no consequences? She's like, ooh, okay. And then he's like, you can become a great warrior. And she's like, really? And he's like, swear loyalty to me, be my paladin. And she does. She swears loyalty to him. So anytime she raises a sword, she's raising it in his name, and, like, will summon him or whatever. Waylon the Smith was not Waylon the Smith, and Magnus Bane was not Magnus Bane. Who were they? Lilith. I'm sorry, haven't we already dealt with you? Yeah, Lilith was shape-shifting, and I thought Magnus was a little weird because his magic was, like, brown-ish or something. And I'm like, isn't his magic blue, the color of Alex's eyes? Yes it is, but I was like, continuity error? No, sorry Cassie, I will never doubt you again. It was Lilith's magic. Yeah, so she did that because Belial stole Edom from her, and she wants to get Edom back. Yeah, so no, Cordelia has sworn to Lilith, so anytime she raises a sword, she will summon her. So, like, she can't raise a sword. She can't fight currently, so that's something they need to fix in Chain of Thorns. This book is too much. It's too much. I can't get my thoughts together. I am sweating. Like, I am sweating talking about this book. Let's talk about Jesse. So Jesse rises as a ghost at the night, sleeping during the day. So at dawn, okay, this is what Belial has been doing. He's been possessing Jesse's body, and every single person that's been murdered has a rune that has been taken from their body, and with the stele, it has been copied and pasted onto Jesse's body, so he would be stronger. And this is to try and, like, make him half Prince of Hell, half Shadow Hunter, so he can defeat Cortana, because Cortana can strike him down, because apparently 3 wounds and he's dead. He got 1 wound in Chain of Gold. He now has another wound in Chain of Iron. bitch is dying in Chain of Thorns. It is happening because we never hear from or of him again as far as I am aware. I don't remember. Yeah, and the reason Belial could possess Jesse and his body would not fall apart. James said something funny about that. He's like, this is not the ideal vessel. And he's like, no, a dead person is not your ideal vessel. And he said something about, oh, I think he was like, that's like as if saying the sewers is not an ideal holiday vacation. That was great. That was really good. Okay, so the reason he can possess Jesse is because when he was younger, so you know what, this is actually all Tatiana's fault. She did not trust shadow hunters, and when you're a child, to get the protection spells, you have to get it from a silent brother and an iron sister, but they're shadow hunters, so she's like, fuck no. Goes to a warlock. What warlock is that? Emmanuel Gast, the dead warlock, the one that rose the Manticore demon per Belial's request. Okay, so like Belial like gets his claws into him and makes him put a little bit of Belial in Jesse's soul, so like as he grows up he can possess Jesse. And he pretty much told Tatiana, don't let the shadow hunters get involved, like don't stick a ruin on him. He's like, because that's not gonna go very well. So hence why when he got the ruin, died. Dead. And yeah, so he was pretty much like, oh, there goes my plans, but Tatiana was like, absolutely not, and got Belial, I think, to preserve his body. So he was in like the in-between state. That's why he was like a weird funky ghost. This is the Lucy, Grace, Malcolm storyline. So they are trying to get Malcolm to help with the necromancy to raise Jesse from the dead, and to do that Grace is like, you're the one that fell in love with Annabelle, and he's like, yes I am. And he is still under the impression that she is at the Adamant Citadel as an Iron Sister, and she's like, my mother is currently there, I can get information for you. He's like, cool, bring me some information, I might help you. So she finds out from her mother that Annabelle is dead, and you okay, so Grace Blackthorn tells Malcolm Fade that Annabelle is dead, the Blackthorns killed her, she's been dead for like a century. He is distraught, he is so upset by this, rightfully so. And like she even shows him like the crystal ball and stuff, and he's like, get the fuck out, like get out right now. And then later Lucy convinces him to help her because she's like, I can raise her ghost, like you can get some more information and stuff. So I think in Chain of Thorns, Lucy is the reason that he finds out that she was buried alive, which is ultimately, Lady Midnight spoilers, what makes him go insane and then try and raise her from the dead and end up killing a whole bunch of people. And this is quite literally the beginning of his villain arc for the Dark Artificers. It started in the last hours, and oh my god, I didn't think we'd get this. I love it as a plot line. And of course it is fucking Grace Blackthorn that started this. Oh my god, Lucy and Grace, you have no idea what kind of can of worms you just opened. Oh, as soon as I saw Malcolm Fade in this story, I was like, this is not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good. And because he currently is of the opinion necromancy bad. He's like, it is evil, we do not do it. But they are getting him involved, they're getting him involved with necromancy, and as soon as he finds out what really happened to Annabelle Blackthorn, he's gonna go insane. Well, we know he goes insane, but he's already dabbled a little bit in necromancy, so he's like, I'm gonna raise her from the dead. But you would think, because we all know and think Jesse's gonna be brought back, because apparently Lucy and Jesse get together. I know the family tree's not trustworthy, but I think her telling us it's not trustworthy means it really is. She's trying to throw us off the scent, because why else would Christopher and Grace have little moments? Literally, why else would that happen? Because on the family tree it says that they are together. Okay, what was it? Oh, Jesse, yes. So you would think if he helped with the necromancy to raise Jesse, he would have been a lot better at it at raising Annabelle, but oh, Lucy commands Jesse to like expel Belial from his body. It works. So then Belial is like this weird kind of shadow, and James like hugs Cordelia, turns into a shadow, turns her into a shadow, stab, gives him the second wound that he needs, and now Jesse kind of dead on the floor, and she's like, I can no longer feel the anchor in him, which is good. The anchor was Belial. And so, oh my god, think. But she's like, I can still feel like a spark in him. She's like, there's a part of him still in there. And so when they are in the sanctuary, after they've been portaled from their big fight back to the Institute, oh, that reminds me, I've got more things to talk about. Okay. Oh, okay, oh my god. So Lucy is kind of just like touching him, and she's just like thinking about him. She can see some of his memories, she can see her, and like without even thinking about it, she's like, live. I command you to live. What happens? Jesse lives. She raised him from the dead by just going, I command you to live. And Malcolm walks in and he's like, oh girl, what did you do? What did you just do? And she is now unconscious. So like, currently right now, we are not 100% sure. They have the happier... At the end of this book, their relationship is at the best because they love each other. Then he is now alive, but like she's currently unconscious, and we're like, what's going on? What's going on with that? How is it going to end? How is that ending? Okay, back to like the big fight. So every death, like the place where it was committed, created a sigil, and they originally thought it was Belial's sigil, but they were like, oh, that looks like a trident. Whose sigil is it? Leviathan, another prince of hell. Those two, they were talking about how like all the princes of hell have alliances. There's Azazel and Asmodeus, Belial and Leviathan, and Belf and whatever the hell his name is was alone, hence why it was easy for Belial to originally steal his realm. Yeah, so because Charles didn't actually die, the Leviathan couldn't properly like break through, so it was just contained to the Institute courtyard, and it was literally just every shadow hunter fighting a bunch of tentacles. Yeah. And so Belial again is like, this is the chaos I've created. James, let me possess you. And he's like, no way, Jose. So possession of James does not happen. I really hope it never happens. Oh, at one point when James and Cordelia were making out again, oh, we learn Belial is not letting James see the visions. Like, James is doing it, and Belial like doesn't really know, so like he didn't want him to see it, but he was. Okay. Yeah, James and Cordelia make out again. The bracelet snaps. It is broken, and then James' like head goes back, his eyes go black, and in that moment I was like, I swear to God, if he's possessed, I'm done with this series. He wasn't. He was just seeing into like Belial's mind again. He just wasn't asleep, so we were like, what is happening? James now knows the bracelet was controlling him to love Grace. Grace comes to his house and is like, oh my God, like I'm gonna break it off with Charles and I can be with you. His response, thank God. What? Why would you say that? At this point in time, he knows he is in love with Cordelia. And, okay, so I think he was more like, oh, thank God, get her in the house so I can confront her. She can't run away, like this needs to happen. Okay, before that, he was with Cordelia and he's like, girl, I gotta tell you something. He's like, because the bell rang, he's like, that's probably my dad. And she's like, oh, go answer it. And he's like, no, I'm going to send him away. I need to talk to you. Go upstairs. It is extremely important. Like, very important. And before that, he'd been like, no, I do not love you like I had loved Grace. Ugh, poor choice of words. He's trying to say that he loves her more, but she's like thinking, he loves Grace more. No, he doesn't. Okay, so when he's there, Cordelia sees that happen and is heartbroken. Runs, she bolts. And so James drags Grace, I think, to the drawing room. Oh my god, he rips into her. He's pretty much like, how dare you? He like throws the bracelet at her and he's like, loyalty binds me. Are you kidding me? He's like, all these years you've been messing with me. I've been under your control. There's been this fog on my brain. He's like, I'd kind of remember things and then like I'd forget. I couldn't really help my family. And she's trying to talk and he's just like, shut up. He is pissed. He is so mad at her. And he's pretty much like, oh, what is it he's gonna help her with? I don't know. He's like, I will help you with something, not as a friend, not as anything. I will just help you with this one thing. So he calls his servant and he's like, there is a criminal in there, call the consul, she'll tell her everything. He goes to look for Cordelia, she's not there. He's like, huh, where is Cordelia? And she's like, oh, she saw you hugging her and booked it. And he's like, you didn't run after her? And she's like, I don't get paid enough to run outside in my nightie. And he gets a glove, he runs, he starts tracking her. He finds her at Matthew's house and he's like, ew, God. So Cordelia, as she's running, gets to Matthew's house. They're kind of talking and she's like, he's in love with Grace, like, my marriage is over. We never even did the second marriage runes. Heartbreaking. And he's like, you can stay at my house. And she's kind of like, what? And he's like, I'm going to Paris. And she's like, what the hell? He tells her that he's in love with her and like he never would have said otherwise, but like situation has changed. And he's like, you can come to Paris with me just so like to be free and like kind of heal and come back. So they're only gonna be in Paris for like 2 weeks because her father's funeral. But the whole time I'm like, no, do not go to Paris because you love James and James loves you, but you just need to communicate. He just needs to tell her. Okay, so he gets to Matthew's house. They're already gone. He's like, and the person that, like, the receptionist pretty much is like, did you say your name was Herondale? He's like, yeah. He's like, here's a note for you. The note is like, hey, we're going to Paris. Toodles. I'm in love with your wife. We'll see you when we get back. He bolts. He runs to the station and he's running to catch the train. Like, he sees them. He's almost there. Who turns up? Oh. Will Herondale. Will, I love you. Please get out of here. Leave. He needs to get on the train and tell her that he is in love with her. Oh. Okay, so Jessamine has told Will and Tessa that Lucy's kind of caught up in necromancy, and her and Malcolm with Jesse have fled. They're not there and they're like, oh God. So Will is like, James, you need to come with us. We need your help. It's Lucy. You can't tell them. You can't tell anyone. It's better the less people know. I'm like, Matthew is James's parapetite. Cordelia is Lucy's to-be parapetite. Get them. Take them with you. Okay, so he eventually is like, oh, we're going on a honeymoon. Obviously he's not. And he's like, no, come with us. So he goes with Will. So now him, Will, and Magnus are in the carriage. Will's outside fussing around with the horses. Magnus is like, you do not look like someone that was just about to go on their honeymoon. You look like you've been, like, kicked. You look like a puppy that's been kicked, and you look heartbroken. And he's like, yeah. I'm so upset. I'm so upset. Oh, Belial in the epilogue somehow got Tatiana out of the Adamant Citadel. What? What? You best believe I'm gonna be going through it at the beginning of Chain of Thorns. Because what the fuck was this? What was this that I just read? Oh, I am so mad. I'm so mad. Also, can we talk about how it was like only 200 pages in where I was like, ah, so there is the plot. Like, it took forever for something to happen. Like, obviously we knew murders were going on, but I was like, what's happening? But there is something refreshing about the fact that the big bads of this book are demons. They're the princes of hell. Like, we're really going back to the roots here. Because in the Dark Artifices, it is Annabelle and Malcolm, and like the whole, so they were like the big bads, but also it was like the politics and everything, like that was down the shithole. The Mortal Instruments, it was Valentine and Sebastian. In the Infernal Devices, it was Mortmain, the Magister, which that had like a little bit of demon stuff to do with it. But it's like in this series, it is demons. It's the Princess of Hell. They are the big bad. Yeah, I think I rated it currently 4.25 stars. So I've rated Chain of Gold above, simply because it was less sad and less frustrating. But I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I don't even want to talk about it. I'm sad. I am so mad. One good thing is I'm so happy that when we're going into Chain of Thorns, the bracelet is no more. You know what? I'm done. So Chain of Iron, great book, not a good time. Not a good time. Bye. Oh, this is so hard. Okay.